special treat for all of us. As you know, there are three of us who are almost reverends, Reverend Lana, myself, and the almost Reverend Ken. And as part of our training, we were invited by Reverend Joyanne to do a power talk, a little power talk. So Lana did one 2 weeks ago, and I did one last week. And this morning, I am delighted to announce that my colleague, right, my fellow ministerial student, the almost Reverend Ken Searle, up to the podium to give us a talk.
I think I got the joy part now. How many times were we supposed to say it? Anyway, that was a little bit refreshing. It was quite nice. So, I knew that we were going to talk about joy, but I knew that this was supposed to fit into the larger element of mysticism. So I thought I would just tidy things up. As we know, we're getting to the end of the month, and so that's going to kind of finish up the discussion on mysticism. How many of you remember way back at the beginning of the month? I talked as though it was way back in the 40s or something, not quite that far back. This month at the beginning, when Reverend Joyanne invited us to, what was it? Dive into the mystic. Remember that? Well, actually, I was kind of taken aback. You know, I'm almost a minister, and I had, just had this idea about diving into the mystic. It kind of comes back for me. The idea came up that it wasn't about diving into the mystic. It was about diving into water. And this notion came back, and it wasn't just any water. I grew up on the North Shore, North Kamloops. And so back in the middle 50s, there was a McDonald Park, and it had a nice pool there. The water was kind of so cold, you could imagine that us kids who used to frequent that place, we used to think that the pipe was going directly from the Thompson River right into the pool, and then, we swam between the little ice chips and things like that. I was about 7 or 6. That was quite, it was quite a remarkable thing how cold it was. And I remember the very first day I went to beginner swimming lessons. And I was invited to dive in or jump in. Well, I'd already put my toe in. There's no way I'm going in that water. Talk about diving in, I wanted to kind of dive out. So for me then, and still with me now, is the memory of that invitation. As we had been invited to dive in, I didn't want any part of diving in to this water. However, now I'm just saying that I'm absolutely positive that Reverend Joyanne's invitation earlier this month to dive into the mystic had a much more, a larger appeal to it than that invitation that I witnessed back then. And so during this month, Reverend Joyanne has been a radiant channel for Spirit guiding our exploration of this whole notion of mysticism. And it is a very deep thing, trying for us to listen to that divine urge and evolve into a higher consciousness. It doesn't get any bigger than that. We've experienced several rituals that have been included to support each one of us in responding to Spirit in a larger way. And this notion is so important in the aspect of our individualization of this spiritual unfoldment. Many of us may have had the spiritual equivalent of the circumstance that I described about a relatively unpleasant invitation to enter into the art of swimming in cold water, and I am pleased to say that I've since got over that. But these invitations to open up, to be receptive to something that we can't see, you know what I'm saying. So, and there might be some things from before that are kind of getting in our way, obstacles. So for each one of us, this is an individual experience. Our founder, Dr. Holmes, includes 2 invitations. There's this great big book. And if you'll just bear with me, here's the beginning. there's a page, and right here, right up front, there are two invitations that really strike for me. And I'm going to read them to you because this whole idea of how Reverend Joanne started with an invitation, and this book, which contains truths from the ancient civilizations and the sages and all of that. What do we find? We find invitations at the very beginning of this book, which I feel acknowledge our uniqueness as an individualized expression of spirit. This is not just thrown in there. So, this is the first one. Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and not be afraid. I have left the gate open, and thou art welcome to my home. There is room in my house for all. The room is warm and cheerful, and you will find comfort and rest within. The table is laid, and the fruits of life are spread before thee. The wine is here also, it sparkles in the light. I have set a chair for you where the sunbeams dance through the shade. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit and drink the wine. All is yours, and you are welcome. For those of us who might have been a little bit worried, anxious about whatever circumstances, maybe a spiritual circumstance that didn't feel so good, and maybe feeling excluded, as though there was something being said about this or involved in this event that seemed that I'm separated. Don't those words kind of encourage us and wrap us and invite us to be one with us? I thought so. The second is written in a form that looks like a poem, but in my mind it seems to be a simple declaration, just a statement. And I think this ties beautifully into Joanne's talk today about piercing the veil. Sometimes the veil is considered to be the mist or the garment, and this kind of a covering. And as we go about this process, we are discovering underneath the veil is love. Anyway, moving on. These lessons are dedicated to that truth which frees mankind from themselves and sets them on the pathway of a new experience, which enables them to see through the veil. Oh, it says here mist. See through the mist to the eternal and changeless reality. For me, this journey into mysticism is very much a journey of returning home. And that's what this is all about. At least that's what I figure. We're being pointed. If we have a mistake or something like that, or a mistake, we're given the indication where we're pointed. That's the way home. Our teaching teaches that God is all there is. Even that mistake is God pointing us. Thus, the eternal reality is that we live in a spiritual universe, and we are an expression of that. We already are 100% spirit. We don't have to do a thing. We're already completely spirit. We just have to realize it. Spirituality is merely one's conscious practice of the awareness of the God presence in the present moment, right here, right now. Only God is present. There is no other presence. This is why our spiritual practice is so important. Our practices, plural, they serve as our daily reminder to remember who and what we are, that we are one with the divine now and always. I celebrate each one of you. On your journey home to that secret place of the Most High within, and invite you to be steadfast in your spiritual work. Now, to Reverend Joanne.
So you can see from the last
2 weeks, each of their 5-minute, which was really 10 minutes, is you can see what is coming forth. Isn't it fabulous? So very soon we will have 4. You will get 4 for the price of 1. Such a deal. All right, so today I'm actually going to dedicate today's message to the 3 new upcoming wonderful ministers, almost ministers. And you will, how many of you, I should ask, how many of you read Interior Wellness Magazine? Well, this coming issue for summer, I've written an article, and today's message is actually based on that article. It's actually even called Piercing the Veil. So if you read it, which I'm sure you will, it's always beautiful, it's always infomercially perfect, and you learn things. I love that magazine. So we will have some copies for you next week. I believe it's going to be next week, so I invite you to pick one up. So this entire month, Spirit has been guiding our way as we dive in to the ice, as we dive into the beautiful essence of the truth of our being. And so this month, as you have gone through the many different parcels and particles of that, which I will just be very quick in reviewing, I wanted to first ask you, how did you like this song this morning about joy? Did you like that song? I know some of you were laughing pretty loud. You were really laughing. Yes, and that was so beautiful. And I have for all of you a handout that looks also, speaking of being beautiful, and it's called The Recipe for Joy. And the reason I talk about joy is because joy is the ineffable sign of the presence of Spirit, the presence of God. So how many of you truly feel joyful? One of you. Okay. A couple of you, all right. And are you joyful no matter what? Or are there things in the world that kind of happen that pull you from your joy? Anyone ever have that? On a rare occasion, right? So I love her words. I got the joy in my life. It never ceases to amaze me. And I love her kind of soulful thing, kind of I'm like getting into the groove there. I love it. Joy, joy, joy. And I think, and you noticed, and if you said it enough times and you sang it, didn't you start to really vibe with that? Didn't you really feel that? I love that. And so this month, today is the conclusion, or the bringing together of the entire month as we conclude our diving into the mystic. And now we're ready to dive into summer, yes? Who's ready for summer? Everyone, okay, good. So as a review, what is a mystic? A mystic is not a mysterious person who has a deep inner sense of life. It's not just a mysterious person, it's someone who has a deep inner sense of life, right? And of his or her unity with that whole. A mystic is one who senses the atmosphere of the divine in every situation. And it is something that is very, very personable or personal to all of us. So we consciously claim ourselves to be that which we desire, and we will know the status of a true mystic. So think of something right now during our service and kind of bring this to your awareness that you would like in your life. And a good way to ask this question is, what is missing? If you asked your question to yourself right now, what is missing? Maybe you would say nothing. Maybe everything is just perfect. Perfect health, right? Perfect prosperity, perfect relationship. Everything is perfect, right? If perhaps there might be something that you desire in your heart, some good, I want you to bring that to mind as we go through today and see if you can pierce the veil, which we'll be talking about in just a few minutes. So, what does it mean to pierce the veil of separation? What does that mean? And personally, I want to know, what is that veil? What does that mean? So I'm going to share with you that. It's so interesting to me. I find this really, really, really fascinating. That we tend to look at, and see if this is true for you, we tend to look at circumstances in our lives. We look at what is going on in our body, in our hearts, and in our minds in our emotions, and we say, that is what is real. How many of you have had something happen to your body, an injury or an illness, and you say, that is what is real? And you give it all of your attention, then what happens? As Abraham Hicks says, don't worry, it'll get worse. Don't worry, it'll get bigger. So you don't want to put your attention on that which you do not desire. Instead, as it says, as the great master teacher said, he said, turn the other cheek. And that means you turn away from the condition, the appearance, whatever is going on that you do not like, and you don't talk about it, you zip it. It's another way to say it, you want to zip it. The more you talk about it, what do we do as ladies? As ladies, we call all of our friends and we say, oh my God, this thing happened to me. And we tell them how awful it is. Anyone do that? Yeah, a couple of you say, oh, this thing happened and I hurt myself, or I'm having all these problems. And we talk about it, we talk about it, we talk about it. And what happens? We beat it up, we wrestle it to the floor, and it gets worse, right? So we don't want to do that. So here's some thoughts for you. So we have a body, but we are not our bodies. We are much more than a body. The body may be in different conditions, health or sickness, rested or tired, but it has nothing to do with the real self. We are not our bodies. We are not our conditions. We have a mind. Well, most of us do. We have a mind, but we are not only our mind. We are much bigger than our mind. Our minds may take us on some interesting adventures. When was the last time your mind took you on an interesting adventure?
10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago. I had one last night. I'm beginning in June, I'm beginning my very first radio show. I'm going to call it the Happy Hour. And all night, all I could do was I was laying awake and just thinking about, I should do this, and I want to do this, and I want to play this song. You're supposed to have 5 pieces of music. That's what you're invited to do. And 37% of those 5 pieces have to be Canadian artists. So I'm trying to fit all these pieces in and create this radio show, right? So my mind is taking me on lots of adventures this week as I'm preparing. And it may seem like we have no control of our mind, but that is simply not true. The real you, the true you, your divine you, is beyond your mind. You are much more than that. So you are more than your body, you are more than your conditions, you are more than your mind. What about your emotions? We have emotions, but we are not our emotions. Our emotions may fluctuate. Anyone have that? Fluctuating emotions. But our true nature does not change. That's right. I love when it agrees. We have strong feelings about things, but we are not those feelings. We are much bigger than our feelings. There is something much, much more that we are. We are much deeper than our feelings at any given moment. And what about experiences? We all have experiences, we all have conditions, but we are not our experiences. We are much bigger than that. Much greater than that. We may seem like some of them take over our lives, these conditions. We may dislike things. We may have strong dislikes with others, and yet they cannot touch our lives unless we give them permission, right? So when we identify solely with the body, solely with the mind, solely with the emotions, solely with the conditions, then we weave a tighter veil. We weave a tighter veil of separation. Because we are so much more than our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our conditions, our experiences. And so we want to be able to, piercing the veil is about seeing through the appearance. I read that, if you can really see our spirit, we have this immense spirit that's stuffed into this little body. We're immense. We're infinite beings, for goodness sake. We are divine. We're so much bigger and greater and smarter and more intelligent than you could possibly imagine. It's amazing. We're amazing. I love that song earlier. We're amazing. Every time we get caught in our conditions or our circumstances, we keep bringing the veil down. We keep bringing the veil down. And we have more of a sense of separation. We see only form, and we make God small. A localized person living in a city. Now, our house band is not here today, Heartbeat. And what I'd like to say about that is that when they are all together and they play, there is this beautiful harmony that happens. It's beautiful, it's expressionable, it's delightful. But if one of them played all by themselves and the others all stopped, it would be a different experience, right? And so our musical note that we are each a musical note, but we are the music. I remember this quote, it says that the infinite spirit is the music of our lives. It is the music that is always playing a beautiful note, that is always love, that is always joy. But we tune out. How many of you like to tune out, or you find yourselves tuned out sometimes? You forget. What I said last week, we call it temporary spiritual amnesia. We have that. How many of you remember the story that I shared last week about the hooded figures? We had hooded figures. And there was a group of seekers. I love this story. So there was a group of seekers who went on a long journey. They sold everything they had. Can you imagine doing that? Selling everything you have and going on a search for this mystic. And they spent their whole lives as one man and by himself, and then he got other people gathered together, and they arrived at this temple, and they were all excited, and they went inside, and there were these hooded, it looked like beings in there. So they got inside and they looked, and they found that the hoods were empty, and they realized that the journey, it is the journey that caused them to realize that they are the ones that they've been seeking. They are the mystical essence. They are the ones. They became the mystics. They put on the robes and they became the mystics. And so today I'd like to offer you just a few suggestions on how to pierce that veil, where we get caught up in our circumstances, we get caught up in our mind and our adventures. You stay awake all night on this adventure called, what am I going to do with my radio show? All this adventure that you're on. Here's the first one. And how many of you have ever been on a fast? Ever gone on any kind of fast? So I'm going to suggest fasting, but it's not from food. It's not fasting from fast food. And it's not a fast about food. Here's what it sounds like. Number one, you want to fast from judging yourself and others and feast on the great I am that is indwelling you. They had an advertisement last night on TV, and it said that 9 out of 10 women do not think they are beautiful. 9 out of 10 women on our planet do not. They hide from cameras. Anyone here hide from cameras? Don't take pictures. They hide from cameras. They do not think they're beautiful. They judge themselves. Who judges themselves? All the time. So fast from judging yourself and others and feast on the great essence of our being, the truth of our being, and the beauty that we truly be. Fast from apparent darkness and feast on the reality of light. Fast from pessimism and feast on optimism. Fast from thoughts of illness and feast on the wholeness that is spirit, that is within all of us. Fast from the words that pollute. What's that saying? Give a hoot, don't pollute. Probably heard that before. Fast from the words that pollute and feast on the phrases that uplift. We're not here to put people down. We're here, can you imagine all of us uplifting each other? What a different world it would be. So fast from things or words that pollute and feast on the phrases that uplift. Fast from anger and feast on understanding. Fast from worry. That's a big one. Fast from worry and feast on divine providence. Fast from unrelenting pressures. Anyone have unrelenting pressures? And who puts them on you? We do, right? And you want to feast instead on unceasing prayer. Fast from complaining. Who likes to complain? Really? Sheila's raising her hand back there. And you want to feast instead of complaining, go into appreciation. You want to fast from hostility and feast on non-resistance. Fast from anxiety and feast on divinity. And finally, you want to fast from fear. And what would you do if you fasted from fear? You would feast on love, right? On love. And when you feast on love, you literally shift your life into joy. Because joy is the ineffable sign of the presence of Spirit. Abraham Hicks teaches this all the time. It is the vibration of manifestation. So you want to get happy and you want to stay that way. You want to find reasons to be joyful. And I'm going to share with you this recipe that I'm going to ask Pat if you would help hand this out. Some of them have butterflies, some of them, this one has a beautiful butterfly, and we're going to look at the recipe for joy. You're going to take it home with you. I have one on my fridge. So every time I go and have something in the fridge, I remember my recipe for joy. As she's handing this out, I'll share with you. And this is Recipe for Joy by Esther Abraham Hicks. Seek joy first and foremost. Seek reasons to laugh. Let's all laugh. You laugh? I guess we have to have a joke, right? You don't need a joke to laugh. Seek reasons to offer words of praise to self and others. Seek beauty in nature. I like this one. It's funny. Seek beauty in nature, beasts, and other humans. Seek reasons to love. In every segment of every day, look for something that brings forth within you a feeling of love. Seek that which uplifts you. Seek opportunities to offer that which uplifts another. Seek a feeling of well-being. All is well. Know that your value can only be measured in terms of joy. Acknowledge your absolute freedom to do any of these things or to not do any of these things, for it is without exception your choice at every moment of every day. So joy is a choice that you make. And love is the expression. So you want to fast from fear and feast on joy. And I bring this to a conclusion before we go into our meditation time briefly. This is one of the most powerful quotes that you will ever hear by one of the giants of New Thought, and his name is Emmett Fox. And he's a New Thought teacher. It's been years since he's passed into spirit, but he is amazing. And these are his exact words. I love this. He said, "There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. There is no disease that enough love will not heal. There is no door that enough love will not open. No gulf that enough love will not bridge. No wall that enough love will not throw down. No mistake that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. If only you could love enough, you would be the happiest, most powerful being in the world. If only you could love enough." And so I invite you, I challenge you to have your first response to any challenge in your life be one of love and compassion. To be one of joy. To be hopelessly optimistic. And so now I'm going to invite you as we play our wings. Whereas my wingman is missing today, so I have my wing woman. My wing lady. And she's going to play the wings. Thank you, Corey. And so we're going to anchor this as we pierce the veil. I invite you to close your eyes. That in a very powerful and extremely important way this morning, this is what we are going to do, to pierce that veil. and ask, how could I pierce my veil that I have created, that I have pulled down in front of my eyes? And how can I pierce that veil with greater love? So let's explore that. So I invite you, as you are seated comfortably, to take a moment as you go within to your heart center and ask yourself, is there any part of me that I feel is unlovable? Maybe a part of your body, you don't like your belly, you don't like your toes. Is there any part of you that you have judged? And just bring that to mind. And right now, as you are thinking of that part of your body that you don't love very much, that you wish was different, to imagine that you are sending love from your heart directly to that part of you that you feel is unlovable. In other words, making a conscious choice right now to love. Sending your entire body love. And then ask yourself this question. Is there an experience that has happened in your life, maybe in the past when you were little, or growing up, or maybe it was a divorce, or a situation that has happened recently in your life that seems unlovable? And bring that situation to mind. And right now, send that person, place, thing, or situation that seems unlovable. Send that person, place, or thing, or situation love. Imagine that you are literally a fax machine of love, sending love from your heart through your hands to that person. Sending love to that place, to that thing, to that situation. And now bring to mind, perhaps there is a person in your life that you have a difficult time loving. Maybe a relative, a parent, a sister, a brother, cousin, a neighbor. Last night, my neighbors across the street had a party, a very loud party for most of the night. So I am going to use them as my consciousness of love, sending love to my neighbors right across the street. I send love to all of them, and maybe you have someone or some person in your life right now that is difficult for you to love. Send that person or those persons love. And then finally, think of a situation or a place in the world right now that you might have difficult time loving. There's all kinds of things happening in the world that is calling for our love. So think of a situation in the world, the greater community of our human time on planet Earth, maybe a different country, and send that country, that situation in the world love. Send massive amounts of your love through your heart, through your hands, and sending love into the beautiful planet spinning in space. See her spinning in space and sending your love to Earth. Seeing her in her perfect orbit, knowing that all is well on planet Earth. So now, expressing that love, being that love, we have pierced the veil and we have sailed into the full expression of our mystical divine selves. being love on purpose. And from that place of being love on purpose, we realize that joy is our natural state of being. The great teacher Yogananda said, from joy we have come. In joy we live and move and have our being. And one day we will once again melt into that joy. And so with that in mind, seeing everything as love, embodying love, and feeling joy, I just say thank you, infinite, loving presence. For the veil is now gone, and I am deeply realizing my absolute oneness with Spirit. I feel it, I claim it, I know it, I am it. As we say together, and so it